Hey people, it's me again. So, anyways, um, I want to partly explain like some of the other wrestler characters that I made on VEO3 as far as that goes. So, when it came to Sergeant Love, he's supposed to be like John Cena if John Cena had a military man gimmick as far as that goes, but obviously he's a face, you know. And then when it came to that one character, El Caballero, and he's basically would be Rey Mysterio because he is a face and he's a masked wrestler like Rey Mysterio. And so another one would be as far as that goes is that I keep forgetting to add more heels as you know because they had at least to date at probably like 6, 7, or 8 heels as far as that goes. And then the one that I just like created a couple of days ago was like, you know, Valderman and the Big Palooka. They're known as like the circus villains because I originally wanted to call them like circus freaks, but I don't think it would have really been right to call them circus freaks. You know, and they're supposed to be like the vaudevillains back then. You know, having that vaudeville gimmick as far as that goes, but as far as when it came to their ring attire, it's supposed to be that they wear like a singlet that has a single strap where it just goes over one shoulder instead of just going over both shoulders, and it's supposed to be like the Big Show's ring attire when he was still a part of WWE at that point, where he had a singlet that just had one strap over his shoulder and that was it. You know. And so as far as that goes, I hadn't made a character that had that whole from parts unknown until now when it came to that character Spectra. You know, as far as that goes. And then when it came to this other character, Patty McCullough, she's supposed to be like Becky Lynch in a way. And then Jane McCoy is supposedly would be like Alexa Bliss if Alexa Bliss stayed with the cheerleader gimmick as far as that goes and stayed a face. You know. So that was one of the things there. And then I felt like that there's also possibilities where I could have characters do a turn, you know, with his face turn or a heel turn as far as that goes. Because like when it came to the character, the Viking, there was also a possibility that I can also make him a heel as far as that goes, and he could be, you know, as Ragnarok or something like that if he was a heel. But and then when it came to the character Mariposa, that if I wanted to make her be a heel, then I could have her as like Mala Maria. You know, as far as that goes, it just means like Bad Maria because of that. You know. But then I could also have like a face turn with La Chola, make her be like Angelica or something like that, you know. But in a way, La Chola is supposed to be like those Chola girls that were over here that I do remember interacted with some of those girls that were like La Chola, that were like cholas back in the late '90s. You know, when I was in high school, that sort there might have been at least maybe a couple of them that were like that. You know that wear the whole uh, the flannel jacket, and then have the Dodgers cap, and then they would do the dark lipstick, and then shave their eyebrows, and then have it pencil drawn in, you know. But that was kind of like what like the Chola girls are on this side of the country. But I don't know if what they would call it, like if it was like on like New York or Miami, as far as that goes, that were like that, you know. But when I think about that, I think of like those two characters, Lita and Melina, that were on Mad TV, that were played by Nicole Sullivan and Deborah Wilson, respectively. You know, as far as that goes, you know. So, anyways, and as far as that goes, I mean, I had another heel that was called the Condemned, and he's like based on any of like these other wrestlers that their gimmick was like a prisoner gimmick, because I think they had one on WWE or one of the other ones that at the time, and I do remember watching like a video like on Inside Edition back then, and when they had about like the independent wrestling circuit, and there was one heel that had that gimmick, and I think he was known as like Alcatraz or something like that, and that was part of his ring attire is a prisoner jumpsuit, you know. As far as that goes, a prisoner jumpsuit, but without the sleeves, you know. So that was like the case there, and then of course Captain Doom was another one that's kind of like another pirate themed heel as far as that goes. But as I said before, if I wanted to make him be a face, then I could change him to be like a privateer or something like that, you know, which are like bane of the pirate's existence or something like that. And then when it came to other characters, I mean, I think I probably would have to think about it, like, I mean, what would be like other characters that could go heel and face, and you know, whether it's the same kind of gimmick or have to swap gimmicks or something like that if they go from face to heel or vice versa, you know, because after all, it was like the case with like Bo Dallas, you know, where he has that heel gimmick of Captain Howdy, you know, as far as that goes. And then when it came to like other wrestlers that had like multiple gimmicks, you know, when it came to Mick Foley, you know, he had the Mankind gimmick, and then that was, I think that was probably was a heel gimmick. Correct me if I'm wrong, you know. And then of course Dude Love and Cactus Jack, as far as that goes. But in a way, I probably should have watched the whole WWE, WWF at the time when they had the Attitude Era, because a lot of people will say that was like the best era, was like the Attitude Era, yeah. But for me, it's like, if I probably wanted to watch something like that, I wanted to watch that in private and peace, without, you know, my parents bugging me or my brothers bugging me about something or whatever it is. And mainly that I would prefer to like have like a TV in my own room at that time, you know, because I'm more introverted in a way. And back then, when it came to that, you know, my dad could not really quite understand that, you know, that I needed my me time, you know. And I did have like a TV in my room at one point back in fifth grade, you know, but it was only like, but I could only watch TV in my room when it was like certain broadcast shows that I wanted to watch. But and plus, Dad was just a bit of a cheapskate. He didn't want to pay extra to have like another TV hooked up to the cable as far as that goes. And although there's like a hole drilled here that I can actually have cable hooked up there if I want to. You know, just as much as with one of my brother's rooms has that too, coming from the bonus room, and then here coming from the main bedroom and all that, you know. But that was back in the day when we only had 100 channels, and back when we could just, you know, connect the cable directly to the TV set and not have to worry about having a little set-top box and all that, you know. But I digress. So, anyways, I guess that's probably it. So, talk to you guys later.